Greetings and salutations, and welcome back for another round of Truthseekers. Tonight, I thought we would talk about something that it seems like we talk about this time of the year every year. Every year, it seems, people start asking the question, will this be the year of disclosure? I am getting kind of tired of the question. And a lot of people are following every little development closely, but with everything that's going on in the world, that seems much more difficult to do now. Every year, the hopeful hope that this will be the year. They're finally going to give us the truth about aliens. But every year, it seems that the UFO profiteers chug along, doing some sort of drip drip, promising that they've got the goods, and yet never quite really delivering the definitive proof that so many are hungry for. Many people follow this closely, and my guest tonight is one of them. I always enjoy talking to him. And I've been thinking about this stuff, and I think so has he lately. So I thought, rather than have a private conversation, I'll just be an asshole and bring my friend on and put him on the spot and grill him about a lot of this stuff and see what he thinks. No, we always have a good time. And I thought, why not share that good time? It's kind of like just two friends interested in this crazy shit sitting around on a couch talking together in long form. Imagine that. And you get to come along with us. So my friends, we'll bring in my guest tonight, Dan Hogan. There he is. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing all right. Time to get grilled.
Yeah. No pressure though. 1 second. There we go. I forgot to do that. You know, I'm much more handsome in the dark. Just letting you know. So I like it a little lower, you know.
That's right. Got to keep the ambiance.
It's like
the ambiance got to be good.
It's like that saying about a woman, she was good from far, but far from good. You ever heard that before?
I have heard that. Or
I swear I had a girl tell me that once. You're much more handsome in the dark. And I was like, is that supposed to be a compliment? Yeah. But yeah, I do I like it so they can see the lighting effects too a little better. So,
right.
You know, you and I talked just a little bit about all the developments and what may be the future for some of this conspiracy, aliens, UFOs, UAPs. Honestly, until recently, I was totally burnt out of this subject. You know, I mean, the radio show, the podcast that I did previously was almost exclusively UFOs, aliens, every episode. And, you know, we sort of went through, and I just absorbed so much of what I call UFO mythology, that I got burned out of it. And as much as I love all this stuff and the stories, I just said, that's enough. Until somebody's going to stand here and give me really good evidence, I got to check out. And then I got Michael Schratz's latest book. Have you got this book?
I don't.
Michael Schratz's latest book is amazing. It's the best UFO book I've seen in 10 years. It details these little known cases. Some of them are known, but it's a lot of cases that I've never even heard of. And then there's these amazing illustrations based on eyewitness testimony, 3D renderings of the craft. It's amazing. And it sort of rekindled my interest in some of this stuff. But then I get to all of the UFO hucksters just selling their bullshit, and I get a little discouraged.
Well, I think it's like you said. I mean, I can just speaking for me personally, I kind of go through the same thing where it's like, you know, you kind of go through the ebb and flow of all these different topics, and, you know, you sort of go down these rabbit holes for as far as you can take them, and then you sort of just get you know, you're sort of I don't know, you just get tired. And we were talking about, you know, before we went on, we both have other stuff going on in our lives, like families and different things. So it's you sort of get pulled away from these things just, you know, just in general, just life does it to you. But it's every once in a while, like you said, you'll come across a book, or I'm really big into some of these like just random documentaries that are out there on the internet, or like on these
Oh,
streaming services. And
I do the same thing. It's like I've probably watched every documentary related to this that you can on YouTube. But
well, and
then
it's
every
funny.
once in a while you stop for a while and then you go find some more, you know?
I was watching that Jeremy Corbell like Skinwalker Ranch documentary, and
Yeah,
I don't
geez.
even really I'm not even really a fan of Corbell. I think I even made a comment on Twitter when I was watching it about how he's got his head so far up George Knapp's ass. I don't know how he breathes in there, but just
Yeah, not a
just like
fan either.
watching the program and kind of just getting back into it, and like you sort of get, I don't know, you sort of get like the warm and fuzzies for it again, and then it kind of, it sort of comes back around.
Yeah, I don't know, but on Skinwalker Ranch, I mean, they had years and years and years. Bigelow dumped a shit ton of money to these really, smart scientists, all the best gear. They've never captured anything like scientifically valid, you know?
No, and I mean, Knapp even said, like, in all the times he was out there, he never had like one personal experience at Skinwalker Ranch, other than the stuff he claims Bigelow has, like the data that never, if there was, it never came out, or it was never, I guess, like, sensationalized enough to where people actually, took time to really look into it, I guess.
Yeah, and that's a strange thing. I don't know. I checked out a Skinwalker pretty quick. I mean, it seems like a nice, carefully crafted story for sale. You know,
Well, it seems like a
you mix
hodgepodge.
in some, yeah, you mix in some native lore. And
They took like the kitchen sink of like ufology, like paranormal, and like fucking threw everything together. And it's like, we got this one place where all of this shit happens, but nobody's ever seen it. Oh, but Bigelow spent millions of dollars to do all these
and there's
experiments and shit, and
there's
nothing.
an endless
Nothing.
stream of books and documentaries about it too.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so that makes me suspect of it. I don't know. I just kind of checked out of the whole thing for a long time. And then I got this book from Michael Schratt, and then I started reading some other things. And you're right, your interest may get rekindled, and you go, okay, well that one's bullshit, but maybe this one's real for the 100th time.
Well,
Let's go down this rabbit hole then.
I think the biggest thing, like, too, for me was that, with there's so much like election fatigue, and there's so much like people are just so tired of hearing, Trump ads or Biden ads or what. I mean, that's all people were talking about, and it's just like, you just want to talk about something other
Something
than that.
else. Yeah,
And
something else
that's kind
maybe.
of
Yeah.
what got me thinking on this. Like, like you said, you were kind of thinking the same thing, but like all these topics that we're always talking about, you know, just the year of disclosure, the disclosure president, like the future of this UAP, like this ATIP, to the Stars Academy bullshit, whatever you want to, like all of these things that were kind of big, big topics, you know, pre-COVID and pre the election getting to where it's at right now. Like nobody's talking about any of this stuff anymore. And like we were talking before we came on about like the Space Force, like what is somebody who's smarter than me or who spends more time, and it can probably, there's probably more information out there than what I've just come across, but it almost seems like they announced this new branch of the military or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
the Space Force, and oh yeah, we got a great logo and we're doing this and we're doing that, but then it's just like you don't hear about it anymore. What is the mission of the Space Force? Like, what is their long-term, like, strategic initiative? What are they doing?
That's a good question. And how much money are we going to spend on this shit?
Yeah.
And what is the transparency level going to be? Because if it's anything like the other three branches of the military, they're not going to be transparent about anything they're doing
Well, no, and I think
with
like the
our
way it was.
taxpayer dollars, which is great, you know.
Well, it's always
But
with your taxpayer
listen,
dollars.
I kind of do. I almost go. I almost give in and say there is a need for a military force in space because let's say, for example, that a bad actor, pick anybody, it could be, anybody that could get a space capsule up there, India, China. Let's say that one of them decided that they were just going to start knocking down American communication satellites, right? Like, what if that happened? Like, how quickly could we get a vehicle up there with some kind of weapons on it to stop them from destroying our entire communications network? there are valid concerns and a reason that having a military force in space may be a good idea, right?
I think I heard something, and then I almost thought it was like a deep fake video when I first saw it. But like the Secretary of Defense was talking about something along the lines of like Russia or China having like direct energy weapons. I feel like I saw him say that, like, and they were talking
Yeah,
like
there
that's
could
kind of,
be
like as
weapons
far
in
as,
space that we don't even know about.
yeah, I mean,
You
or as
can
far as
rain down on
like
us.
what was that, the Reagan thing, Star Wars, like the SDI. Um,
Yeah,
they said it was never finished, but I don't believe that for a second. There's probably some variation of it up on a satellite or something right now. China and Russia probably have the same thing. Um, I think the
yeah,
biggest
but
threat.
the thing that's scary about it is that now you're going to weaponize space, and so
Well,
who's
that was
going to
only a matter of
be
time.
who's
I
going to
mean,
make the rules? Who's going to it's going to become very complicated unless we get past this. I'm Chinese, you're American, and we just go, we're all Earthlings, and the
yeah,
space
we're all
belongs to
human.
all of us, right? It should belong to all of us, but that's not the way it's going to work. I think if I could make a prediction, I would say that multinational corporations are going to get out into space and they're going to start mining. And there's so much money to be made by that. It's the next $1 billion, the next billionaires may be made from that industry. And they're gonna they're gonna have problems because what if, let's say, for example, a mining operation from China tries to mine the same mine that a mining operation from the United States is going to try to mine or claim? Like, all of these
Are you
things are
are
coming
you
at
talking
us.
about are you talking about a mining operation like on a planet or like an
Like
asteroid or what?
asteroids. Yeah, the
Okay, all
asteroids.
right.
That's going to be a multi billion dollar industry very quickly. Like, as soon as they can figure out how to get craft out there to do it, or drones out there to do it.
Well, I mean,
Because,
they're already starting a little bit. I think didn't NASA
yeah,
just try to send a probe to an asteroid to like get some samples
touch
off
one,
of it or
yeah.
something?
To
Yeah.
touch one, yeah. Yeah, it was like a touch and go. It just kind of touched it and went back off.
Well, and then I
But
just
these
saw
are the
the other
first
day
steps.
that NASA, kind of changing topics here, but NASA, I guess, they were making that big announcement. Oh, this earth-shattering information. Then it was like, oh, we found there's water on the moon, or there's more water on the moon than what we thought. And it's like, well, they know back in like the late '70s that there was water on the
I don't
moon. I
believe that
mean,
they knew. I don't believe that they knew for sure that there was, and it's a weird thing too, because it's kind of the same thing that they say about Mars, is that there's water that's able to be, you know, they can they can take water from the soil in the Martian soil. There's enough H2O moisture in it, but they need some kind of collector. And I think it's the same kind of thing on Mars or on the moon now, that they're saying that there is sufficient water beneath the surface that could be extracted and used by settlers or by or astronauts. One of the people don't realize this. One of the most expensive things to take into space is liquid water. It costs tens of thousands of dollars for every liter of water that they have to take up to, let's say, the International Space Station. So,
well, that's all. I mean, it's all weight and stuff too. I mean,
yeah, but
more
that's why
pounds
the
and more
discovery
fuel
of
and
water
different.
on other planets is so enticing, because we could save tons of money if we could just mine the water when we get there that our people are going to need.
Well, I mean, and to kind of go with that, I think I even before a couple weeks before this, wasn't there something that came out like in a space magazine or in a journal or something? They're talking about that there was like rust, the moon was like rusting, or there was like more rust deposits that were found on the surface of the moon. I feel like I read something about that, which kind of goes into the whole conspiracy theory about like the moon being like
An artificial structure,
an
yeah.
artificial structure, or like a not like a spaceship necessarily, but some kind of like you just said, an artificial structure that was placed there, not necessarily something that formed over millions of years and ended up
Yeah,
being
that's
there.
that's a scary one, because talk about intelligent design. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, though, you can Google like what the Earth would be like without the moon. Then it'd be a whole
Hmm.
different planet, and complex life may not have ever even evolved if not for the moon being there to stabilize Earth's orbit and provide the tides and all
The
of these other things. It's
gravitational weight,
so
yeah.
perfect the way that it's like a ballet. It's like a cosmic ballet, and it's so perfect the way the Earth-Moon system works, and it's unique in our solar system at least. I'm sure they're going to find other planets that have similar orbiting moons eventually, but so far I don't believe that they have. They're struggling
I
enough
think,
just to find exoplanets, let alone moons of
yeah,
exoplanets.
I think I've even heard that the moon, where it's located, as far as its relation to the Earth and different, like it's almost like too perfect. Like the moon
Yes.
really shouldn't be like where it's at, or shouldn't really even exist according to what some physicists have said. So it, like you said, it's a strange deal
That's
to
another
start going
strange rabbit
down.
hole. Yeah, the origins of the
Yep.
moon, and for all we know, some intelligent species designed it or terraformed it or placed it in orbit, made it out of asteroid materials. There's all kinds of theories on that. But getting back to this disclosure thing, I mean, don't you think that people are just getting sort of tired of the constant, like, it's gonna come any day now, and it just feels like that these people that are pushing it are always promising we're gonna get it. It's
Well, one, I guess
these earth
the only
shattering
people who are getting
revelations, and what we
the
get
only people who
instead
are getting
is,
real worked up about it are people like you and me, or people who are in the community and like following this stuff on a, semi-regular basis. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Every year, like you said, it comes around. Is this going to be the year? Somebody out there, not naming names, but you know who the main hucksters are right now. Like, if it's not that person, it's somebody else saying that they've got exclusive intel that this is going to happen at the beginning of the year and blah blah. 5,000 other things are
oh,
going to
the
happen, and
insiders are the best. The
nothing
insiders
happens.
are the best. The insiders are my favorite. The so-called
I'm getting
insiders.
briefings,
Yeah,
getting those briefings
you're
from
not
those
getting
high
a fucking.
level.
You're not getting a fucking briefing. These guys are getting their briefings from a big fucking bong. That's what they're doing, and then they go out and they're like, I could imagine some of these guys just sitting around smoking this huge bong, going, all right, and then I'll say that I talked to honeycomb Earth people, and there's people living inside planet Earth, and then I'll say I fought reptilian aliens, like.
I will tell you this
There's
though. I do think that 2020 is going to be the year that the grift is going to get condensed down. I think you're going to see a lot of these kind of smaller time like UFO hustlers. They're not going to be able to survive because there's no conferences. I mean, there's like these online like virtual conferences, but
Yeah, but you're right.
they're not paying
They're
not
getting
paying the same.
squeezed right
Yeah,
now. Their
you're paying
wallets are
twenty
really.
dollars. You're paying $20 to be on this virtual conference as compared to the $200 you were paying before, plus paying for each individual lecture and all of these different things. So a lot of these people are going to get squeezed out, like you said, because they can't stay in the platform because they're not making any
Yeah, I mean,
money.
I've heard other people talk about this. Like, if that, like, what is the long term plan for some of those grifters? You can't keep going like this.
They don't have to have one.
Not in this fucking economy. You're
They
gonna
don't have
be
to have one though,
starving.
because I mean, I guess if they had some other form of income and they wanted to do this as like kind of a side
Side
hustle,
hustle.
then maybe you could keep it going. But I mean, the fact is like these people don't have to have a long-term plan, because look at the people look at the main hustlers of ufology who have been in this for, 10, 15, 20 years. Everything's always the same. They just build it up, build it up, build it up, and then it kind of just fizzles out. Oh, but it's okay because I got this new intel that says that this is going to happen, and then
New
they
book, new
and then,
documentary to sell,
you know,
new course to sell. Yeah,
yeah.
it's just like a, I
So
don't know.
I do think the grift is going to get minimized, but I mean, you're still going to obviously have your players out there that are going to, just try to milk every single story for what they can. But I don't know. I mean, I just watching this whole COVID thing. If the
Yeah,
government like really like obvious, the government's got this information that they're not sharing with us, because they say that, and they've been saying this for years, that we as a race, or we as Americans can't handle the truth of what they know. And you're like, oh no, fuck that. Like it's 2020, like we're ready to hear this. But then look what happened at the beginning of COVID, when you couldn't go to Walmart and get a roll of fucking toilet paper because
yeah.
everybody and their brother was over there hoarding it. They were hoarding baby wipes. Like, I couldn't get stuff for my kids because all the suburbanites were afraid that there wasn't going to be any paper towels. Like, this is what happened with this. So
Hey,
I
I'm a
mean,
suburbanite now.
well, I mean,
So,
I am too in a little in a way, but at the
and
same
let me
time, it's
tell
like
you, I had
I
a
didn't go
garage
out and
full of that shit. We had
well,
plenty.
yeah, I didn't go out and I didn't go out and hoard all that stuff, just like a
No, we
lot of
didn't
other
hoard it
people.
either.
And
But when it
you
started
know,
getting a little scarce, my wife got worried and tried to get
it,
extra or
it
whatever, or
did. But I
go
mean,
to
we
the
made it
store on a
through, and now
special
you,
day just to get it. Yeah,
yeah,
we can't
but
even
now you go
handle this
there.
shit without people freaking out.
So yeah, I don't. I like just like what you just said. I mean, I think that the government is never going to trust us with. I mean, not that they may ever trust us with the information, but if this is how we react to shit like this, we are not in any way prepared for the social, political, religious, like spiritual ramifications of if they come out and just dead set say yes, there is extraterrestrial life outside of this planet. That will rock everything, and it would probably cause a lot of problems. I hate to say that, but it probably would.
Yeah, I don't know. Half of me thinks everybody would freak out, and the other half of me thinks people would go, "Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Like
It
we
does
kind
seem
of
to me
knew
though
it
that
already."
they are slowly they're slowly like setting people up for it. Like if you notice, like in the last 3 or 4 years, there's been more science related like stories about space and like the moon, the
Exoplanets,
water on the
the
moon,
moon.
Mars, exoplanets, trying mining satellite or mining asteroids, like the what is it like Jupiter or Saturn's moon that has there's something possibly
Yeah,
on it like an
and
obelisk. I mean, there's all
the
these little
moon
stories that.
Titan. Yeah, a
Mhm.
lot of people have said or theorized that they're trying to soft disclose and get us ready for a big announcement. That's said by a lot of these hucksters. A lot of them say that, and I kind of go, or we live in a much more media rich world where we get more of this information. Whereas, like, like let's imagine when you and I were like 10 years old, right? There's only so much time on the evening news. So a lot of that stuff
That's
we
all there
might not hear
was.
about. Yeah, we might
Yeah.
not hear about so much of it. And now, information, there's just so much information and it's coming at us all the time that maybe we're just absorbing more of it or getting more of it. I'm sure there was scientific discoveries that would go, yeah, there's probably life elsewhere. Before, maybe we just weren't as tuned in.
Well, I think the big thing too is like look at like I'm not a big proponent of the New York Times necessarily, but like their article about the Tic Tac UFO and the different things that were going on, and the government sort of initially denouncing it, saying it's not true, but then they sort of rocked it back and were like, yeah, no, we had a program, and now you got like senators like Marco Rubio wanting to set up like a UAP committee or
Inquiry,
some
sort of, yeah.
inquiry. I mean, so like they're just these like little things that they're doing
Well,
that
I always
it's
found it funny though that it's like Harry Reid is in a lot of this stuff, and he's in
yep.
this new movie Phenomenon, and he says things like the government is not being truthful, and the government has more information than they're sharing with people. And I'm always, every time he says things like this, I get angry because I think to myself, motherfucker, you were the government. Why
For
didn't you
like
do
40
it while
years.
you were in power? You had the power to do
Exactly.
something about this, and you didn't. But now you're going to be on documentaries and you're going to get quoted in newspaper articles about it. It's just
I
like
mean,
this.
I do think, and I think with the Reed thing, I think what it probably comes down to, and you know this too, is that once he got out of government, I mean, the dude's already probably a millionaire. I mean, he's pretty old. So I mean, I don't know how many years he's got left, but he's had some health issues. So I think a lot of these guys, they get to the end of their life, and it's like they want to tell people this shit, and it's like you can choose to believe it or not, but it's like at that point when they know that the game is over, what do they have to lose by lying? I mean, like why would they lie when they're getting ready to go out? I mean, just maybe to
Well, I'm
be
not saying that he's
known
lying. I'm
known.
not saying
Well,
that
no,
he's
I'm not saying
lying.
no.
What
I
I'm
know.
saying is that he's making these claims like the government knows more about it. You were the government for like 45 years. You could have
Well,
done
no,
something.
that's what I'm
If nothing
saying
else,
is
if he felt this strongly, he could have leaked some of that to somebody. He could have leaked some documents. He could have done something and brought all the truth out. But now that
he
he's
didn't feel that
out,
strongly when he was getting
yeah,
those multi-million-dollar donations from the
and
PACs
the
and the
government
all the
checks
different
and
people. Oh yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and the government checks. A lot of people don't know this, but this is crazy. If you're a senator for one term, or I believe too, if you're a congressperson for one term, you get that salary for the rest of your life.
You get health
So
insurance for life too, I
for you get
believe.
your health insurance for life, and
Hmm.
you get that salary, whatever that salary is. If it's $180,000 a year when you become a senator, let's say you, Dan Hogan, became the senator from Ohio, right? And you did
Cashing
your
in.
but you did your 4 years, and then you got beat. You instantly lost your first reelection to do another term. You get that salary for the rest of your life. That's crazy.
I don't understand how. I mean, like all these people who go to Washington, they're supposed to be going to Washington to be like public. Not to get political on this, because we're trying to stay away from that. But it's like all
Yeah,
these people
every
who go to
time, oh
Washington,
man, every
they,
time it gets into politics on here, it's like a shit show,
well, no, I mean, I
dumpster
think
fire. So
it's
yeah,
a the only point I would make is that all of these people who go to Washington always go to Washington leaving with more money than they came in with. Like you're supposed to be going to be like a civil servant, like helping the public, and you end up helping yourself and becoming like a multimillionaire while you're
yeah.
there. I mean, these
My favorite quote about that whole situation is Jesse Ventura. One time, somebody, he was having an interview with somebody, and they said, "Well, don't you think you're kind of a hypocrite because you were a politician?" And he said, "No, sir. No, sir. I was never a politician. I was a statesman. I went, I did my 2 terms, and then I went home." That's the way this shit is supposed to work. But I guess until we get some kind of term limits, it's just going to be a big swamp of corrupted mess.
well, and that yeah, and I mean, just again, not to get too deep into it, but I mean, it doesn't really matter who the president is. If you got the same people who've been in Congress for 30 years and they're the ones making the laws and basically running the show, it doesn't matter whether their president's a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, or a sock puppet.
Yeah.
A sock puppet. They don't. They're not the ones who are making the laws, and they're not really running the show.
Well, I
So
also think it's just this whole situation with the government and so called disclosure is just crazy and ridiculous because literally the one hand of the government doesn't know what the other hand is doing. And they double up on programs because somebody's not aware that there's already a program for that. This whole ATIP, there's already programs to monitor the skies for threats, right? We've already got NORAD and all those
mhm.
things. We don't need an additional program, but they did it anyway and spent millions of dollars. And this whole situation is like they don't know. Like Rubio is one of those guys now. He's going to get to the truth. Well, you've been a senator for how long and you're on intelligence committees. You should know what the hell we have if we have captured aliens or flying saucers or debris. And the debris is another one. I hear about this false claim that they have debris all the time. And then it escalated in the New York Times into Eric Davis saying we have captured craft that are not of this earth.
Yep.
First of all, he's a crackpot, and he could say he briefed a senator about anything. I can get an appointment with my senator and go, well, I don't know if I could get an appointment to talk about whatever I want, but I mean, I could go brief him about, chemtrails and just tell the New York Times I briefed my senator about chemtrails. It doesn't mean chemtrails are real. It means I had a conversation about it. So, yeah, he had a conversation where he claimed that we have this recovered craft. But the proof of the recovered craft never materializes. And he's in bed with TTSA and Hal Putoff. He's worked for him for years.
Hmm.
And these guys all seem to be pumping this through the media to make money. TTSA especially. And now it's come out that Chris Mellon is the guy who leaked these videos to the New York Times in the first place. But why do we care if those videos were already out in the public domain on YouTube? Because suddenly this former intelligence officer is now pushing this story.
Well, I think there was
It's
a.
all crazy.
I think with TTSA in particular, there was a specific agenda. Like, I mean, you had Tom DeLong, who everybody knew because he was already a celebrity from Blink 182, so he already had recognition. And then he brings together all of these, kind of ex like shady CIA guys, like these Lockheed guys, or just these people who've been involved with special access type projects or whatever in the past. And it's almost like the government was kind of setting that up to be like the CIA's version of kind of how they were going to maybe do some kind of disclosure, or it was like their I don't even know what you would call it, sort of like their project for whatever their plan was with
when you
that.
look into the financial end of this, though, it's really shady. It's basically a broke rock star with millions of dollars in debt starting this thing, taking investor money. Where's all this money going? I guess into production of one television show that they've had 2 seasons of. But I know people that have told me that they're not making a mint from that television show. So it's all just a house of cards, invest in our company, and they're burning through money left and right, I believe. It's
maybe it was a way just to kind of gauge. Well, I mean, look at there's different theory, like with Facebook, for example. I remember reading years ago that that DARPA had a program that they were working on where they were trying to basically do like a social media type deal. This was back like early on, like before any of this stuff. So they had this idea for like a life social media type deal, and they had their own setup. And then all of a sudden, like this DARPA program it dissolves or it ends. And the same day that the DARPA program ended was the day that Facebook like went public. And there's always been rumor that Facebook and the government are like this. There's money from the government behind it. So, I mean, I think with TTSA, I think maybe if the government would have seen that it was like an opportunity to, again, use it for some kind of agenda, I mean, the government could have been secretly putting money behind it, and maybe they still will. I don't know. But like you said, it was like they sold it as like hey, invest in our company. We're going to do all these different things. But it was never like it never had like mass buy-in. And like you said, they got a TV show, but what else do they got?
A couple of books, and they published Bob Lazar's book too, which is funny.
But wasn't Secret Machines, like that Tom DeLonge book, wasn't that sort of already in circulation like prior to
I think so,
TTSA
yeah, but they
forming? So I mean that was already kind of out there.
Though. Yeah, they rolled that into TTSA. I think it was already out before TTSA. But then they did a second book in that series or something. I haven't read either of them because I don't know. I kind of turn off when it's Tom DeLonge. Like, I hated his music. I thought he was terrible. And then here he comes like, I'm the UFO Messiah now, and I'm going to bring you the UFO truth. Please invest in my company, and then we'll use that money to, basically live some fantasy life where he's some,
Well, didn't he also he was also real big. He was also like real big like with wasn't he like real big with Podesta, or he was having like a lot of conversations with John Podesta? I don't want to get all the Q people all worked up, but I mean, there's obviously like when you're talking to somebody like that who's got higher up, access and information back from when he was like chief of staff for Clinton. I mean, he obviously knows some stuff. I mean, they always act like Bill Clinton went looking for aliens and didn't find anything, and I'm just like, like I don't necessarily buy that, but at the same time, back to what you said earlier about the money and how the government like will have like the same program but for like different branches. I do believe that there is some truth to like the compartmentalization aspect of it, where if you have these things so like tight and we're only a handful of people actually have access to the information, nobody ever really knows what the fuck is going on because no one's ever got the whole picture.
Yeah, and nobody does. And I used to not believe that was possible, but then I built Linux servers for a project that was government funded. And boy, let me tell you, they would walk you in and like, this is your work area. Don't look anywhere else. Don't go in these other rooms. You stay where you're supposed to be, or we'll have big problems. And you're getting a good government lucrative contract, so you just do what they tell you, and you shut your mouth and you work where they tell you to work. You don't get. I had no idea what they were building. Do you know what I mean? Well, I had no idea what they were building. I just knew I'm making these Linux servers. That's what I'm doing here today.
And they're sending you, and they're signing your check. So you're like, absolutely, yeah. I'm gonna look. You're
gonna shut the fuck up and take the check, bro, because that's the way it works.
there's definitely, I think, something to all that. Like the special, like the black budget, the money that's involved in these programs. I mean, they exist, whether it's UFO based or whether it's just us trying to get ahead of the Chinese or the Russians. Like we have technology that is far ahead of anything that is public knowledge right now. And again, whatever the reason for that is, or whatever the agenda behind it is, it's there. So, for that to be like, for there to be programs that are classified like above the president, I would believe that, because like we talked about before, the president's there for 4 years, maybe 8 years, and then he's gone and it's the next guy. Some of these programs have been going on for probably 30 to 50 years, and they've outlived multiple presidencies.
Well, what a
So
lot of people don't talk about when it gets into the subject of whether presidents know everything is this: there is a substantial effort in the government to give the president plausible deniability.
sure.
So there's all kinds of projects where they're trying to develop weird weapons and shit, and they're not going to let him know about it until they need him to make a decision on use of that weapon or that technology.
Hmm.
There's all kinds of things that they're developing in the black world. It's trillions of dollars going missing every year into this huge black vault that you never get, you know, any information out of. This is the
I think
stealth programs, and a lot of people like Walter Bosley thinks that the military kept control of some space technology and did their own thing with it. So NASA became the public face, and they've still got spacecraft and rockets and other space technology and branches of the military. For sure, the Air Force does.
I just feel like with NASA in particular, like we're still using like this same rocket technology that we've been using for like the last like 30 or 40 years. Like we have, I mean, like we have gravitic technology. I mean, I'm not saying that it's mass producible. I'm not saying that like all the theories are sound, but I mean like there are, there is other technology that's out there that the government like basically even acknowledged. Like I think the Navy had applied for patents, and I remember seeing somebody had pulled those up online and were basically showing like the Navy's got some kind of anti-gravity type device that they've got a
Well,
patent
they
on.
they definitely have electrogravitic type technology, and one of those is ion engine, and they put those on some deep space probes and things like that. And the way those work is like, if they really just put out a tiny bit of thrust, but it's all electrical. So the electrical panels will collect the electricity, and then they shoot ions out the back of this engine, and then it propels the spacecraft. But because there's no drag, it just takes a tiny little bit of that force out of the back of that ion engine, shooting ions out, and eventually that spacecraft will build up to huge, tremendous speeds.
Hmm.
But this could be used for a moon run and back.
Absolutely.
These could be
Or I
used
mean,
or
if they can put it
adapted.
on, if they can put it on a deep space probe, why can't we put it on an engine and go to Mars and be in Mars in, you know, two
Yeah,
months
I've
or a
always
month
thought
or
that the most disappointing part of the Apollo program and is that we never go back to the moon. And according to the original outline of the whole NASA plan, it was going to be the moon by 69 and Mars by 79. They were poised and ready to really be bold and adventurous and really explore our solar system. And it just got killed by cowardly politicians,
Yeah, but
basically.
like that like it is strange though that we just stopped going to the moon, because if the government loves to do one thing, it's
Yeah.
spend taxpayer money. So like just for the fact that we were going, and then all of a sudden we stopped, then we're trying to go back to the moon now, and they say, "Oh, we can't go back to the moon because like the technology that we had, like we lost it, or we can't do this. Like we could get there in 69, but we can't get there in 2020, or we can't do it the exact same way but better." Like it's so goofy the way that they spin this shit,
Yeah. And
and it just
I've talked about the fact that a big indicator that there was something hokey and funny going on is that they still had Saturn rockets left after the last Apollo mission, and these are
mhm.
$1 trillion rocket, and I mean they had them built, ready with capsules, the same exact everything of the last mission to the moon. They could have went back a bunch more times, and it just doesn't make sense that they just mothballed a $1 trillion super advanced rocket ship with life supporting
Well,
capsules and fuel and landing vehicles and all of this stuff, and they just put it in mothballs and said, yeah, we're not going to go back.
I just think that because we're so, I don't know, we get so conditioned to listening to these outrageous like SSP stories and like these different things. No, I mean like for
Yeah,
real,
you
like
get
what
into
like the stuff
science
that
fiction
Bosley,
land.
the stuff that Bosley talks about, like with the military and like taking a real like rational viewpoint on it and saying, hey, the military was doing this after they quote unquote stopped doing it. They probably maintained a specific amount of money to advancing these projects. So it's like when you really pull back from like the woo woo part of it and you look at just like what we could have rationally accomplished like in those time periods. I mean, it's easy to believe that at this point we have probably been to Mars, I would think, in some, with either an American kind of spacecraft or a multinational sort of backing deal. Like we probably have been, I would almost imagine at this point, in all over our current solar system,
Or at
whether it's
least
manned or whether
or at
it's,
least it feels like we
unmanned.
should. At least it feels
We
like we
should,
should have. We should have been to Mars by now. We long should
yeah.
have been to Mars by now. And officially we have just the robot missions, which are interesting, but it doesn't seem like they're making very much discovery with robots. Even sending like whole labs on board these robots so they can analyze soil and this and that. We're just not getting much information about all of that. And really,
Well,
it's
then
not
they
very
stopped
exciting
working.
to send a remote control. We're basically sending remote controlled drones to Mars. That's great, but I want to see a man walk on it. This
Well, and then
childhood
you sort of
dreams, like,
you
yeah,
sort of
we've been to the
wonder you
moon.
wonder what the why there's no sense of urgency. Like we have this sense of urgency with all these other things, but when it comes to going to Mars, it's like we're taking these very, very, very small baby steps every time. Now, why is that? Is there something there that they don't think that we're
Well, it is
ready
it's a
to
tremendous
see?
scientific challenge to go to Mars. I'll
It
give them
is.
that. But if we had the technology to get to the moon and back safely in 1969, right? I mean, we should have the technology to get a craft to Mars and back safely. It's
Yes.
2020, man,
And again, the government loves
50
to spend.
years.
They love to spend money. So why have they like when? Why was that not a big thing? Now maybe it
Well,
was
a
behind
lot
the
of people,
scenes,
a lot
but
of people have pointed out the reason that we're not in a rush to go to Mars is that the Soviet Union or China are not in a rush to beat us there. You know, maybe
well, I mean, I
competition
think
is a good thing.
China's making some inroads, I think, as far as like trying to get the space technology to where it's at. But then again, like what we're seeing on the news, there could be a whole different thing going on behind the scenes as far as like what we have, what Russia has, what China has. I mean, and again, maybe behind the scenes when the cameras aren't on, we're all working together trying to, you know, come up with something to get there. But
Well, NASA's really become a huge disappointment to me because growing up I was all about space and I built model rockets and stuff and like read about space history and the moon missions and got books on that. I was so fascinated with astronauts and getting in that rocket ship and going to the stars. This is awesome. And now it's just like it's almost a joke the program that they have now. We don't even have a launch vehicle. We were paying the Russians for years to take our astronauts into space. Since the space
yep.
shuttle ended, there's no NASA launch vehicle. So
And now we have a
now,
private. We're private
yeah,
now.
now we've gone private, and we're just going to pay SpaceX and a few other. I don't know
I
if
think
there's
right now
others.
it's
It's
basically
SpaceX,
SpaceX.
yeah, yeah, and Elon Musk is kicking their ass. Like he's just innovating. I mean, look at these rocket ships that he's got that can land down on platforms in the middle of the ocean and be reused and all this stuff. Like, so
Yeah, but
maybe maybe getting private companies in there and getting rid of the bureaucracy that's just burning through money to do things is a good idea
well,
because
I
it's
mean,
competition and.
he's being compensated very well for what he's doing. I mean, he's making billions of dollars like by the day it sounds like. But look at like, back like in the early 1900s or like earlier in the last century, like when people would talk about what they thought the year 2000 was going to be like, or like if you ask somebody what they thought 2020 was going to be like, oh yeah, there's going to be flying cars, we're going to be traveling in space, we're going to be doing all these different things, and we can't even make a hybrid car that runs like on a battery that can go for more than 30 miles. Like we are nowhere close to like achieving these lofty ideas that we had before. Or like I said, they have the technology, but they can't commercialize it to make mass money off of it, so they hide it until they can use it later. I don't know.
It could be. Yeah, I think that Elon Musk is pretty interesting though, and he's said, I heard him say recently that he plans to die on Mars, so he's determined. He's going to get there before NASA or anybody else. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Mark my words, friends. He's going to get there before anybody.
He also said that the first
You know
people
what I
who went to
wonder
Mars
too?
were probably
Like,
going to die too.
yeah. Oh, that could be. But you know what I wonder too? Like, if you're a billionaire, right? Can you just go there with your spaceship and like put your own corporate flag down on Mars and then go, "This is mine, bitches." You can imagine if somebody did that, right? And then just
It's kind of like
started a colony there, sent, soldiers there. So if anybody else tried to come onto the surface of Mars, they'd kill them and just own that planet. I
it's
mean,
kind
you
of
got
like
to
with the
terraform
ocean.
it, and it's a
Like with
third
the
the size of the Earth, but that's pretty good.
It's like with the ocean where you have like international law or whatever. Like if you find something, on open sea, like you can claim it. Maybe that'll be the same thing. Like he gets to Mars first, and Elon Musk gets to claim the whole planet or something like that.
I think he's thought of this. I think he's thought of this.
He probably has.
Yeah, he'll be the king of his own
And he,
planet, man.
and then he's
How do
gonna
you not
live. Then
love
he's gonna
that?
live. He's gonna live forever because he's got that brain chip or whatever in his head.
Yeah,
And
or upload
his
himself to his own
that's right.
AI host
Like
system or
what was
something.
that? Like that Johnny Depp movie Transcendence or whatever, where he like uploaded his
This,
consciousness or whatever to his
yes, and
computer. Yeah, it'll be like that.
this whole neural link thing is scary and interesting and opens up a whole philosophical debate by itself because if it advances the way that Musk says it's going to be basically a direct interface to a computer, and you're going to have a whole different class of human that's going to be artificially intelligence enhanced human. And what about the people that don't get it? Are they going to stay in the Stone Ages? Or what about Amish people? I'm pretty sure Amish people are not putting a computer chip in their head to connect to the internet. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Well,
going
that
to
was
create
like
these different classes of people, the superhuman or the metahuman or the connected and the unconnected, and that could start all kinds of philosophical and religious, and maybe the ones without the chip will be enslaved as primitives. They're stupid.
that's
They don't have the AI in their head like us.
that's probably part of the whole, like, I guess the singularity sort of conversation. But as far as like metahumans, I don't really know if it would get to the point of like having a chip in your brain would make you a metahuman. I mean, there could definitely be some advantages if they figure out different ways to utilize that technology. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with nano technology and stuff too right now, as far
Yeah,
as
that's scary as well.
injecting this kind of stuff like into your body, and like what these things are capable of doing. And could they, if you suffered a traumatic injury, could these nanite type deals get injected and go in and basically heal your organs and different things like that? I mean, I think the sky is probably limitless as far as what they can come up with. But I mean, will it ever be functional and actually work? I don't know. But I don't think you're going to have like Superman type people. But it could be more like you said, of a class thing, where if you have it, you're considered more of like the elite level, and you've got privileges over the normal people who don't have them.
Yeah, it's kind of like this Elysium idea where the rich and powerful were on that beautiful space station that was pristine and they had clean air and great food, and then all the people left on Earth were like,
Living in
scraping by to
shit.
survive and living in shit. Yeah, yeah, but I could easily see it going that way with this separation between the haves and the have-nots. You know, and why would somebody that had that? It would become a superpower. You would be super intelligent. It might make you more creative. It might make you able to do complex engineering and building things that these people without that connection won't be able to do because they're unenhanced.
I think
So
there's definitely philosophical questions that go along with all that. Because I mean, ultimately, what you get to with the Neuralink or the singularity type deal is you get to a point where they have the ability to make people live forever, or in some way you could live
Copy
to
of
be,
you, yeah.
300, or they clone you and they can somehow transfer your consciousness or something to a clone. I mean, it opens, like you said, it opens up this whole Pandora's box of all of these, philosophical, religious type questions that I think a lot of people are probably not prepared to answer right now, and may never be, ready to answer those questions. But
Yeah, it's
like
strange. It's strange times that we're living in. But in getting back to disclosure in 2021, do you see any movement there, or do you think we're? I think that we're going to see more of the same. We're going to see
I think
more
we're going to
hype, hype,
see.
hype, 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 hype. Buy my documentary. Hype, hype, hype. Buy my new book. And I don't think that we're going to get any significant. People are too busy. People don't seem as interested in this stuff. There's so
I
much
think
shit going on.
I think that you're going to see some, like we talked about before, like with your sort of year in year out hucksters that are always that have been there for a long time. I think you're going to see some stuff from them, but it's obviously going to be the same shit that it always is. Like, here, buy my book, listen to my lecture, but I really have no fucking answers for you. I think from a government standpoint, I think you may see some, again, maybe some small drips, maybe some
Well, there
some
could be new
more art.
cases. Yeah, there could be new cases with good evidence in the next year.
We
I
could have
just
some
saw a
cases,
few. I
or
just
just
saw a few mass sightings that looked a little interesting to me that I have to look deeper into. And I love mass sightings, like because that means so many different witnesses saw it, so you get different people's viewpoints and perspectives of what they think it was and what did it have sound, and I love mass sightings. We could get another mass event like the Phoenix Lights, but better or worse, depending on your point of view. And that
I
could
I
push the
think what you're
debate forward. But
I think what you're probably gonna see too, in my opinion, is, like we saw, like this year they were talking about that, what was that comet that had the funny name, and they were like, oh, it's a comet, or it's like, oh, maybe it's a
oh, that
spaceship,
Hawaiian name thing, I can never say it. Yeah,
or a Mora. I don't even know how you pronounce it, but like I
yeah,
think you're gonna see, you had that, you had these unexplained, like like the fast radio bursts, or the
yeah.
radio
And
waves that are.
that comet case is very interesting because it's like a Harvard astrophysicist that said this thing is under propulsion and artificial control. And that's crazy because
And then there was
that's a
no big,
pretty
but there was
smart
no.
man. He's not a crackpot. He's not a nut job. He might be, but on the appearance, it sounds like a credible scientist with Harvard that's saying, and he's putting his career on the line going, this is under intelligent control, and this is under some sort of artificial propulsion to be able to move through our solar system the way in which it did. He analyzed the flight patterns, the speed it was moving, all these different things. How do we know? That could be something from another world. Just like we send out probes, that could be some sort of probe that's looking into our solar system.
And that was on mainstream media, covered a lot of that stuff. So I mean,
It's a good story.
the fact that you saw the mainstream media pick up on that story and sort of run with it, that's why I was saying, I think what you may see, just as far as like the minimal drip of disclosure, whatever you want to call that, you're going to
Yeah.
see. I think you may see more stories next year of stuff like that, just small little things. Because like you just said, that guy went on TV, a Harvard physicist, and said this thing looks like it's under artificial control, and it's got some kind of propulsion system. That was like news, and nobody panicked in the streets, and I mean, but nobody was really making it a big deal either. It was just like they kind of dropped it in there to see like what the like
What the reaction would be,
what the
I
reaction was
suppose.
going to be. So maybe as we go on into next year, maybe we get more small stories like that. But is 2021 going to be, the year of disclosure? No. Is Donald Trump, if he gets reelected, unleash the alien files? No. Is Joe
I want to see if 2021 is the year that Richard Dolan gets a real job.
Richard Dolan is never going to get a real job, sir.
Richard Dolan, you're going to be a fucking high school teacher after this. And the kids are going to go, he's cool. He used to be on TV shows about UFOs. That's your future. You can't keep this bullshit train going, bro. You just can't do it.
Dolan might be able to keep it going because, I mean, he's considered, you know, the more academic, like, sort of credible, like, person in the ufology circle. So, I mean, he might survive. But
I've been putting it off, but I've been listening to this 5-hour Wilson document where he brings somebody on to explain why they're real. And I just have to say, I don't care how academic he is, he's full of shit. If it takes you 5 hours, Richard Dolan, you asshole, listen to me, okay? If it takes you 5 fucking hours to prove that these documents are real, and then at the end of it, you still can't prove it, they give a lot of circumstantial evidence for why these might be true. But the problem is that at the end of the day, the person in the document says, this is fiction. None of this shit happened. I've never been to Las Vegas. I wasn't to Las Vegas for 10 years. I couldn't have been at this meeting that this Eric Davis claims. And again, here we have Eric Davis, the crackpot. He got labeled basically a crackpot doing crackpot research by the U.S. government long before his latest claims of fame, which is, I did this meeting with this admiral and he told me about the crash flying saucers he was looking at. No, bullshit. It's bullshit. And Dolan can keep pushing that. It's an uphill battle, Mr. Dolan. It's going to get rougher from here. It's going to get rougher from here because there's more and substantial proof that those documents are a fucking fabrication by some nut job, whack job scientist. Okay, he's a scientist. Doesn't mean he's credible. There's no proof to this. And it's the same guy telling the New York Times, I briefed U.S. senators about those crash flying saucers. And where is the comment? Richard Dolan has got a real problem on his hands with this thing. And he's still doubled down. He has not. So,
well, I mean, Greer says that he briefed like Lawrence Woolsey, the CIA director,
and then that guy said that never happened.
Yeah, like this medical doctor who really had, who was just like kind of doing UFOs as like a part-time hobby, ends up going in and briefing the CIA director. Come on,
Stephen Greer. I would venture a guess and tell you that Stephen Greer is the most successful UFO bullshit salesman there is.
Like bigger? You think he's bigger than Wilcock? You think?
Bigger, way bigger than Wilcock. Here's why: each of the films that he's made were crowdsourced, and he collected millions of dollars to make those films. None of them cost millions of dollars to make, so he pocketed most of the money for each of the crowdsourced films, and then he made a film, and then he sold the film on top of the millions he was given to make the film. I don't understand crowdsourcing something and then not just going, okay, thanks for the help. This information is so important and to humanity, I'm just going to put it on YouTube for free, right? No.
Or you could have used some of those millions of dollars and paid back some of the people who crowdsourced.
Yes, and he also collected hundreds. I could be wrong with the exact numbers and figures, but he collected hundreds of thousands of dollars, to my knowledge, having looked into it, for a sort of organization that was going to study and promote and put out a free energy device. That's a fucking con. That in and of itself is a con. There's no fucking free energy, Stephen Greer, you dumbass, you asshole. There's no fucking, and Cliff High's fucking playing with magnets. He's going to make a free energy device too. Good luck. It's the fucking first law of thermodynamics. You can't create something from nothing. The ether sounds great, Stephen Greer. So he took all this money, and then he basically claimed that people that he was in his employ to do this research into the free energy devices, everybody took the money from him, but nobody delivered him a working prototype. So sorry if you gave him money for this bullshit, but he invested in some crackpots that didn't have anything that worked, and I don't know where all that money went. Where did all that money go?
I don't know, but the free energy device was at Lazar's house until the FBI raided it and took his shit.
Yeah, Stephen Greer.
What's weird? What's weird about Greer, and I mean, like we were talking about this earlier, like with these grifters, what you usually find is these people, most of these people cannot last more than a year or two on the scene because once you start like scrutinizing their story, all their shit falls apart, and then they just like they wisp away like off into back.
Wilcock does this all the time. He got to go away for a while. Like he
But
did all
Wilcock,
those.
he doesn't
He
really
did all
do
those
it,
2012 predictions, and not a one of them came true. So he's got to go away for a little while,
of
and
all
then
the
he comes
of
up
all
with
the
what does he say? Oh, well, that was an alternate timeline. You know.
Yeah, but like of all the hucksters, like the handful of people like Stephen Greer, Linda Moulton Howe, David Wilcock. I mean, you could even maybe throw in like Whitley Strieber. Some of these, but I mean, the big name people have been around forever, and they sell this crap year after year, and like they still are here. So it almost makes you wonder if some of that rabbit hole shit about like these people being like disinformation type agents, like if there's really some like credibility to that, because how do these people still keep the scam going for 5, 10, 15 years, and they produce no evidence, but they make a nice presentation, and they're making millions of dollars. How are they still able to be on the scene if they don't have if they're not getting, I don't know, if they're not getting backed by something else or somebody else?
Yeah, it's interesting too. Is that like for disclosure, who's one of the biggest advocates of the government cover up and that we're going to get disclosure any minute now? UFO Jesus. If you could design a better fucking plant to send in there and make the whole subject fucking ridiculous, UFO Jesus. Send this guy in there, have him talking up disclosure's going to happen any minute and the aliens are already here and the government's covering it up. And then people search for UFO disclosure and they find fucking UFO Jesus telling us disclosure is going to happen any day now, and everybody goes, these are a bunch of fucking nuts, these people that believe this shit. And it makes it a subject worthy of mockery.
The messenger is ruining the message, and obviously once you get into it, anybody who's been in this for a long period of time, I hate to admit this, I have a David Wilcock book that I bought. I wish I wouldn't have bought it, but it was back when I was I was really new into these different things, and I was just looking for resources. And
I have one too.
I came
and
upon
by
it.
the way, David Wilcock, the book that I have is filled with fake. Look, man, the book that I bought from you in good faith that you said were true stories is filled with fake fucking stories from a fake so-called whistleblower or insider, Pete Peterson. I did the research that David Wilcock didn't do, and we found out that guy's entire biography is a fucking lie and a joke, and all his claimed accomplishments were fake. And I bought a book from David Wilcock with supposedly true stories from that guy, filled with supposedly true stories from that fake guy. So I say that's consumer fraud. I want my fucking money back. That's consumer fraud. He had to know. He couldn't be that fucking stupid. I did 5 minutes into that guy's background and found out that everything in his biography was fake. He had to know. Or he didn't care. Either way, it's consumer fraud. You're selling it as real information, right? A lot of these guys are going to start popping. This is for entertainment purposes. A couple of them are already starting to pivot that this is for information purposes, because I think there's going to be a backlash against these guys that are selling supposedly true stories that are easily picked apart as fake. And they used to have a lot easier time doing this. They'd put it out.
If he never vets anybody and he never actually researches into somebody's background, then he can legitimately say that he had no idea that person, that you can't claim it was fraud, because you'd have to prove, like you said, that he did all this research ahead of time, which anybody who's been following him long enough knows that he doesn't really do a whole lot of research. He's kind of like a copy and paster and just takes shit and calls it, and puts it in like a 37-page
you can check his
article.
I love this, that you can check every one of his books, including the free ones, in a plagiarism checker, and it comes up 50 to 60% copy and paste it from somebody else's work. And another fun thing is, if you really want to have fun, friends, sign up for David Wilcock's email list. He will fucking send you 10 emails a day begging you for some fucking money. This guy,
right,
living in $1 million mansion, sending everybody, I don't know about 10, but he sends a lot of fucking spam. And it's always pushing the next money grab. The money grab. Oh, and by the way, just an update for people. A few did ask me. I requested David Wilcock's 990 form. I have the 2018. I want the 2019 one. And he and his wife, so far, I've made 2 requests by email asking them for a copy of the 990, which would break down what they spent, how much money they took in donations for their so-called charity, and what they spent all the money on. So far, they haven't given it to me, and they're required by law to. And I think that the deadline, they have 30 days to do it from the date of request. And by the way, this is anybody can request it from him, and he has to give it to you. And if he doesn't, you can file a complaint with the IRS. He's not in compliance with the laws, and he's collecting all this money. He has to account for it. So I think that there may be a day of reckoning coming for some of these guys. And we recently heard, I hate covering this guy, but there's revelations in court documents that now Corey Goode is claiming that he suddenly has $500,000 in IRS debt, and he's blaming it on the former manager, right?
Yeah, Roger Ramsor is also.
None of these guys.
Also claiming,
these guys don't like paying their taxes, bro. Like I gotta look. If I get $1 on a PayPal donation, I have to claim it as income, and I have to pay a tax on that. These guys somehow. How the hell is Corey Goode not pay $500,000 in income tax, right?
Because he's the Earth's galactic ambassador, and that's part of his perk package is to not have to pay
maybe
income
it's part of
taxes.
his benefits package. He's federal income exempt, right? Yeah, and I don't really want to get too deep in the woods with that guy. People want me to cover him again, but I just think like it's a sad situation. What's going on with the whole thing is ridiculous. Basically, a guy went on the internet and claimed that he was Buck Rogers, right? He time traveled, he's been to Mars, spaceships landed in his backyard and took him to the moon bases. He talked to aliens. And then other people went on the internet and said, excuse me, this is fucking ridiculous. You don't have an ounce of proof of any of this. Analyzed what he was saying and talked about it. And now he is suing them, his critics, to shut them up, to silence them, while collecting money for a legal fund that he claims is going to drain the swamp of ufology. And none of the people that he is suing, he's suing his former manager, his former writer, former business partner, former conference organizer partner. He's suing several critics that went on the internet and said that his Buck Rogers space fantasies are not true. And he's funding that, claiming that he's going to reveal all the truth about the swamp in ufology. And none of the people that he's suing are big names or really known for talking about UFOs. The critics of his are known for talking shit, going, this guy's a fucking lunatic, and he's a fucking lunatic. You're a fucking lunatic, dude. You're a fucking lunatic. And the sad truth is that this guy's got like a family and children, and how fucking sad of an existence it must be to go on the internet every day and make up more fake shit about aliens to pay your bills, right? And he cannot withstand debate. His so-called stories are so flimsy, so ridiculous, so fake, and easily proven to be falsehoods that he's got to sue people that go on the internet and say, this guy's fucking telling stories. You can't go on the internet and tell ridiculous stories and just expect that nobody is going to critique your crazy stories, I mean, literally, I've done stupid shit like he claimed that he had spaceships landing in his backyard. So I found out where he claimed to be living at the time that the spaceships were landing in his backyard. And yeah, you can go on Google Maps and see that there's this little tiny backyard that you can barely fit like a Volkswagen Beetle into. He's claiming a fucking spaceship landed there routinely, like more than once. A spaceship landed in his fucking backyard, landed in his backyard, and took him to a secret moon base. Folks, a neighbor would have seen a fucking spaceship landing in his backyard if this was happening so routinely. I'm allowed to say that. And by the way, nothing of what I am saying is for the purpose of slandering somebody, hurting their feelings, defaming them, damaging their reputation or their business. But if you make ridiculous, stupid claims on the internet, I'm allowed to say how fucking ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. You didn't have a spaceship land in your backyard, you asshole. You didn't. None of your neighbors saw it if it did land there, and you said it happened a lot. And now, the chilling effect on free speech that this has. Because now, he's feeling more strong now. Like, now I can just go out and say whatever the fuck I want. Nobody dare critique me about it. Or you may get sued and incur all these legal expenses. And by the way, several people are one of the defendants is representing himself. Well, maybe two of them actually, and I'm not entirely well informed. But you can follow Judge Jolly on Twitter and read all these court documents, and you should. And you should support those that are being persecuted by a fucking lunatic with frivolous lawsuits. Some of these people are encouraging huge legal fees for a fucking ridiculous, frivolous lawsuit that's basically, you talk shit about me on the internet and said that my Buck Rogers space fantasy stories are not true. So I'm going to sue you. If you can, friends, please support those people that are fighting that legal battle against this idiot and give some money to them to pay for the lawyers that they're going to need to defend themselves against a fucking pathological lying lunatic. That's where we're at.
Yeah, but you almost hate this. I mean, not that I think you're right to an extent, but it's almost like when I hear you say that, I think of probably two people in particular. I mean, I know who you're talking about. But as far as like Roger Ramsor and his like ex shady business partners, like I got a feeling that whole thing, like they got their comeuppance because in the beginning, I'm sure it was all about trying to make a bunch of money. All of them were probably trying to make a bunch of money, and then they tried to get one over on him, and now he's suing them as part of this whole deal, and they're going to countersue him for, I think Roger Ramsor's countersuing him for like, lost revenue from something that Corey Goode didn't complete at, in a certain time frame. And I think Cliff's even got some countersuit. I mean, this whole RICO lawsuit could really end up being the end of Corey Goode. If this thing goes bad for him and like the judge starts making him pay like restitution and back legal fees to all these people who had to waste their time with this, you may never see him again if this goes that bad.
And it's not just that, but like legal expenses in some states are not even recoupable.
No.
And so like, let's say, for example, in my state, in the state of Pennsylvania, if someone accuses you of a crime, right? And then you hire a lawyer and you spend $25,000 on a lawyer and maybe a private investigator to prove that the claims against you engaging in any sort of criminal activity against them never happened. You spend $25,000 in my state, I can't get that back. I can't sue the person. I can't sue the accuser. But in this case, because it's a civil case, I think that's for criminal cases. But for civil cases, you can. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like in Pennsylvania, yeah, you're right. You could spend a bunch of money in a criminal like litigation, and that's not recoupable. But then I guess in turn, if you feel that you've got damages against that person, you could file a civil lawsuit against them and try to recoup some of that.
If you read these court documents, some of this shit is ridiculous. Like the judge, I believe, asked him to clarify the damages, like give some sort of accounting, and he gave some crazy, like, I got $11 million in damages.
Well, I think a lot of it, unfortunately, too, is probably he didn't pick the greatest lawyer, and I think his lawyer's not really helping his
that's another thing.
Case at all.
That's another thing. We could blow this video up. There's something very important that I want to get off my chest. Theresa Yaneros, where the fuck are you? You plastic Barbie fucking fake bullshit asshole. You fucking fake plastic bitch. That's your sister suing a bunch of your former friends, right? For a fucking cult-leading idiot that you left. So we've got two sisters here. One of them is the lawyer that is suing all of this crazy person's critics, And the other one is a sister who benefited tremendously trying to build her own little media empire and build her brand from this asshole, then got burnt from him apparently and backed off of the cult shit and said, I'm Christian again. And she's such a fucking hypocrite because New Age comes from the devil suddenly. You've been making money covering New Age shit for years. Now suddenly it comes from the devil. And then the very next month, she's at a big New Age conference after she said that all New Age stuff comes from the devil. Where is she? Why don't you come forward, honey, and say something? Why don't you acknowledge that your sister is helping this fucking crazy cult leading, UFO cult leading asshole hurt all of these people? Why don't you come forward and say something? You think you're just gonna sweep this under the rug? You benefited from your relationship with this crazy person, and now your sister is still on his team, one of the only few people left on his team, on his side, suing people with frivolous lawsuits that dare to say his stories aren't true. Theresa Yaneros, you know a lot of shit. You know his stories aren't true. You could end this all tomorrow, end all these people's suffering and persecution by this maniac tomorrow. You should find the courage and you should do that. Do we think she's going to do it? No, she's too busy building her brand, right?
I mean,
her fake,
she's
fake
like
plastic Barbie bitch. That's your fucking brand. You're a fake plastic Barbie bitch. You're a Christian? If you were a Christian, you would say something. You would do the right thing. You would find it in your heart to do the right thing and help suffering people that are getting persecuted by a delusional, psychopathic madman.
She's been radio silent for months, hasn't she?
I haven't kept up with her or any of the other nuts, Fuck, there's another one. Kate Awakening, you asshole. I can't wait to see how your ride on that fucking crazy train goes. I told you that these people were bad news. But there's another fake plastic Barbie bitch trying to build her brand, and she's going to lag on to those guys and, see what she could get out of them. Good luck. Good luck. Look what happened to everybody else that was close to this situation. They all left like rats from a sinking ship. The social media manager quits. The art director quits. How many people has he had work on this comic book that he took money from people? 2.5 years ago, you took all those people's money for that comic book? Now he's saying, well, I got 10 pages of it done. You took money for this fucking thing 2+ years ago and you never delivered it. Now you've only got 10 pages done?
No, because he was flying first class to Brazil and then bitching about not having to wear a mask or having to wear a mask or something on the way back.
Taking so many people's money along the way for various bullshittery. And the latest is now he's going to teach the law of one. By the way, the people that are the stewards of the actual law of one material do not approve or condone him taking money from people to teach a course on that material. He's not a recognized expert in that material. He's not with that organization. And I don't believe that they want him taking money from people for teaching a course on that material. Does he have the legal right to do so? I don't know, but it is their copyrighted material, I believe. So unless he's going to teach it without, quoting anything out of it, it's a gray area. But they don't want, that's like me deciding I'm going to teach a course in Catholicism and the Pope coming out and saying, excuse me, we don't want you to do that. You're not an expert in Catholicism. And me saying, fuck you, I need the money. I'm going to do it, This is not a spiritually advanced person. A spiritually advanced person would not do something like this. So the whole grift is coming crashing down gloriously soon. And I can't wait for one to see the outcome of these court cases. I've been watching them, but it's going so fucking slow. And I have such sympathy and empathy for the people that are getting persecuted by this clown because they got to go through this, man. A legal case is taxing. It'll kill you. It'll occupy your mind, your thoughts, your fear, your anxiety. What's going to happen next? Is this guy going to drag me into court? Depositions, discovery. They're going to want email. They might get into my email, private letters. They could subpoena that. There's all of this stuff. And this clown's going to keep it going for as long as he can keep collecting money from people. But we should get to the live chat. I'm sorry to go so long, friends. Kind of got, see, I could talk about this stuff for hours. So, and that's funny too, is like somebody mentioned like that I should title things better. I got to put like some of the things we talked about in the description because you never know where a conversation's going to go. And but I'm glad that we touched on some of this stuff because this is what's going on in this community. People suing people, you know, lying to people, collecting money. It's great. It's great. So we go to the live chat. If anybody has any comments or questions for me or Dan, now is the time to do it. And just some shout outs. I see Lee Veltman is here. William Pixley is here. Sixth Design is here. Jonaside is here. PBR Street Gang is here. Shepherd is here. Let's see. KB is here. Good to see you, KB. And let's see. That gives people some time to ask any questions. Out of Mind is here. BS Alert Buddy. I agree with you. The initial Fade to Black interview with Corey in 2015 was a sorry, boorish attempt to make his writing seem legit, and it's all on Wilcock for getting it out to the community. Yeah, you have the bullshit huckster, and he's got his cart full of bullshit, and then you've got the guy that's got the bullhorn going, come and get your bullshit. And that's always David Wilcock. He always finds these people. He injects them into the community. No information of value, no credible so-called insider or whistleblower has ever come from David Wilcock or ever will. And it just keeps rolling on, friends. So,
yeah, but I think this time David Wilcock found a insider who had a bigger ego than he did. I mean, like he basically he didn't want to be like in Wilcock's shadow. Like he basically wanted to like be his own. He wanted to be David Wilcock, and look what's happened. I mean, he's still sort of aligned with them, but I mean, like he's basically sort of gone. He went like public and kind of became his own brand and got his own.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens because what people don't realize is that anybody that's being sued by this clown can subpoena David Wilcock and get a deposition and make him testify about a lot of stuff. So David Wilcock is going to get involved in these lawsuits. And I got to tell you, no matter how good of friends you are with somebody, if they get you involved in a legal situation, there's going to be some problems and tension,
I don't think that they're really friends, though. I think it's always been a business arrangement, just like I think the Emery Smith thing was a business arrangement. And now they're all just, trying to keep the grift going.
Jimmy did his fans wrong. That I agree with. Both Shilcock and Goode are totally legally at risk. Here's what I know for a fact. I know for a fact that David Wilcock had a $50,000 IRS lien shortly before starting his 501c3. That doesn't look good. That means he already owed the IRS $50,000 and they had to put a lien on him to try to force him to pay it. And then we have in court documents and a statement of fact from Corey Goode claiming that he has incurred $500,000 in IRS debts due to mismanagement of his management. And he's, I guess, suing them to make them pay that IRS money. This is crazy, though. It's all crazy. But yeah, the IRS does not fuck around. So if you try to get away with not paying them, eventually they're going to catch up to you.
So before we run out of time tonight, do you want to talk about the YouTube lawsuit that we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, we should get into that quickly because this is very interesting. And here I have to say that my position is that a lot of these channels that got deleted for sure deserved it. But I worry that how far is that going to go? Because first they're going to go after Q people and start deleting Q channels and Pizzagate channels, and next they could go start deleting channels that talk about Bigfoot or UFOs or secret space programs or whatever. I mean, where's the needle go to on the scale of what they decide is dangerous or misinformation? And so, can you talk about the suit because you know more about it? I had heard.
Well, I mean, unfortunately I didn't get a chance to get too much into it before we popped on here. But like what I did see was that there was like 15 different YouTube content creators that I guess had come together and were suing YouTube and Google for, basically for their channels being taken down and their material being removed off of YouTube without, prior notification, and I guess without, without giving them, I guess, so many warnings or whatever. But I mean, this list includes Edge of Wonder was on that list. Jordan Sather was on that list. X22 report, SGT report. I think Praying Medic was on there. Lee Veltman's probably Lee's real familiar with him. But I mean, all of these people.
And Lee Veltman, listen, I've been trying to do a show on Q, and I need a Q-tard tour guide. I need somebody to guide us through this shit, because I get a little deep in the woods in this shit, get into the weeds of this shit and go, this is so fucking crazy and complicated. And Lee knows all about this. We got to have you on, Lee. Let's do that tomorrow night. We can have a Q-tard special. Get with me.
But to go back to what we were just talking about, like all of these different content creators, whether you agree or disagree with the stuff that they put up, these people have hundreds of thousands of YouTube followers. I mean, this isn't like my account or like some guy who just started on YouTube like 3 days ago. I mean, these accounts had millions of followers. Probably all together, there's probably millions of people following these 15 people. So I mean, them saying their First Amendment rights are being violated, and that YouTube, basically just kind of threw them under the bus and got rid of their channel without proper reason. It is a slippery slope, but it's like we talked about before. YouTube and Google are private companies, or they have their own set of guidelines, and when you create an account with them or create a YouTube channel, you agree to adhere to whatever their terms of service are. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the court looks at this. I'm not really sure how it's going to go. I think ultimately, YouTube and Google have so much money, or I guess Google, the parent company's got so much money that they could wait these people out for years in court and nothing's going to happen.
They've got 15 people in this suit, and even if, let's say, best case scenario, 2,500 accounts that got deleted all sign on and they try to do like a class action lawsuit against Google. Google has billions of dollars. They have on staff lawyers, a whole legal department, a whole legal team. They have fucking resources that can outlast anyone. I want to look into the attorney. We're going to cover this, actually. We should have you come back on after I have done my due diligence with the research, because I want to research the attorney, the law firm involved that's suing on behalf of these plaintiffs. Because we may find out that this is an ambulance-chasing weirdo that thought he might get lucky or get some publicity out of this, and this is not going to be a big deal. I don't think that even if they got a few thousand people together, could they pool the resources to put up any substantial legal fight against the mammoth, the gargantuan might of this thing called Google? They're just not going to be able to do anything.
Well, first of all 15 of these people are basically like the ambulance chasers of YouTube. So for them to have an ambulance chasing attorney wouldn't shock anybody.
Yeah.
But again, going back to, I guess, the main principle of the argument is, you may not agree with what they post and like what their content is. Like, you might think it's the most outlandish bullshit you've ever heard in your entire life. But ultimately, as an American, we also believe that they have the right to say that. Whether you believe it or not, or how much bullshit it is, it's their right to say it. And if somebody actually wants to listen to it, that's their right to listen to it too. So then it's like, like you said, where are we going with this? If they can cut off these accounts for limited or no reason, where does it stop, and who all is affected by it before it's all said and done?
And by the way, praise the AI algorithm gods. Praise the Google AI algorithms. We are speaking in your defense and discussing this and critiquing, and we are not saying you are wrong. Praise the AI algorithms. Praise Google. Listen, they can make or break people, and that's a problem for me. That's a big problem for me because, I keep thinking about my days, and this is crazy. We'll go a little bit off tangent, but it's important. I keep thinking about my days before the internet. Being a computer nerd, there's these things called BBSs, and you would get your modem and call into somebody else's computer, and there would be forums and things and news groups in this weird sort of spiraling network where my computer would call yours and upload today's messages, and it was so primitive. But there was BBS systems that were very, very politically correct, and they would delete shit about whatever they decided wasn't good. And eventually people got sick of that. And then it became the Wild West, and there was boards where you could call and you could talk about anything. Those were the popular ones, right? I mean, YouTube used to be a bastion of free speech. You could get on there and say anything. And now there's been this continuing shrinking and clamping down of what is acceptable in their platform. And first it was, we'll take away your money. You could still say it, but you're not going to get any ads for that shit because we can't. And a part of me agrees with that. You can't have a neo-Nazi talking about how the Jews are the devil and then have like a soap commercial play during that guy talking about the Jews are evil and kill all the Jews. You know what I mean? And there was literally examples of that happened early in YouTube where they said, wait a minute, the advertisers got involved and were like, are you fucking kidding me? We're paying you for ads and there's a Nazi talking about the Jews are the source of all evil and then our ad plays? So they certainly have a right to say, to moderate a little bit of content. But it's like Richard Stallman says, they take an inch and it's not enough. They never have enough power. They always want more. So first they take away people's money and say, you could say it on our platform, but we're not going to let you make any money. And now it's morphed into, you can't even say that shit on our platform. But this is a complicated issue. It's a private company. It's a private company. Do I want somebody coming into my private company and telling me what I can and can't do with my customers? You know?
I think the monetization thing, taking that away, I think was good because, I mean, that was really like a lot of these people were just on here because they knew they could make money off people. You know, they could get the ads and, or you could do like super chats and get donations. I mean, look at, and I mean, some of these accounts have been around from the beginning.
By the way, please like, comment, and subscribe. And please send our channel address to some friends because we're still not monetized, believe it or not. And you know what? I underestimated how long that would take, but we have something called the Not So Super Chat donations. You can make a PayPal donation and I'll shout it out, or you can just sign up for our Patreon because, yeah, everybody's out here trying to make $1, brother. And we need your financial support to continue this show. Please consider a PayPal donation or becoming a Patreon supporter if you want to see our show continue. I'm so bad at getting the begging bowl out that I did this so I could just read it to people. I don't like asking for money, but it's a rough economy, and I would like to do more of this. Some people mentioned my absence of late, and here's the deal. And Dan Hogan, you know this. I'm a busy fucking guy. I've got like I've got an operating system project, a computer hardware project. I'm trying to do some other things to generate revenue in the midst of Coronaville, where my business went to garbage, nothing. It just overnight, my business was gone as soon as this lockdown and all this craziness started. So everybody's out there trying to make $1. I'm very, very busy. I would like to do this more like full time, like do a show every day. And, I did pretty good doing that for a while, but it's like burning a candle from both ends. Like eventually something's got to give, and I had to step away and do some other things. So really the lesson is the greater the financial support of the show, the more time I can put into it. But I've got fucking bills and problems, and if this is not going to generate some bucks, I gotta go and do some other shit, whatever that may be. So, but I appreciate everybody, and Sixth Design, you can support, via Patreon. And not to take anything away from somebody, but I didn't understand Patreon, and I started putting in these huge benefits, like you get this Linux operating system I'm developing as an alpha for free, and you get all these demos from this Mind Hack project, and you get an audio journal every month. And then I sort of look around and see that like a lot of Patreon people don't give you very much. I'm doing the best I can. If anybody thinks of something else you'd like to get on Patreon, and I only ask for $1, so send me your money, leeches.
Worms. Yeah,
Fucking
send it
worms and
worms.
fucking yeah. Or how about the worms? How about you get upgraded to like a snake? You know?
Hey, speaking of your other projects, do you have any Oracle updates?
Yes, I've got 2 videos that I'm going to put out, and they're going to be about civil unrest directly after the election, and they're
Oh,
scary as
jeez.
shit. And when this thing popped, I said it. I did a big run of data collection, and I let it go for 2 weeks. Collect all the data you can, find out everything that is being said on the internet about possible civil unrest directly after the election, civil war, uh, further skewing of our more corruption. I put in all kinds of search keywords in this thing for 2 weeks, and what it came back with was pretty scary. And I'm just going to put them out, and we'll see what happens. And then one other thing that we should cover real quickly is that uh, I do have a book on Amazon, and that is about the Wendell Stevens case. And the continued bullshit from Mikey Horn and friends is that Wendell Stevens he's making really stupid statements saying that Wendell Stevens got framed by the CIA. And he's put this in writing. I'm got to tell you, Mikey Horn, you dumbass. What is today? Just get it off my chest day, I guess, because I've been gone for a while. Mikey Horn, you fucking dumbass. You can't just go saying that the CIA framed somebody for molesting children as a factual statement. They're not going to take kindly to that. But all the documents and all the proof are in the book. It's called The CIA's Conspiracy Against Wendell Stevens. You can just search my name on Amazon and buy the book. And please buy the book, because I think, brother, I may get a few bucks from that. And
Hey, speaking of books, are you gonna? I think I saw on Twitter you made a thing about. Are you really gonna write a book about building the apocalypse cabin?
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
I would like to. That would be a book I would like to read.
yeah, and I've
As far
committed
as
to
the whole
that, and it's
process.
going to be great because it's going to have. Here's the problem. I really want. I was inspired by some of these other off-grid channels, and when I started, I was like, you know what? I'm going to set up film cameras, and I'm going to film myself building this or building that, and work on it. But it gets so hard to get anything done and trying to film anything, and then you got to go back and edit it. That I just gave up and started taking tons and tons of pictures. Every time I built something, made a little bit of progress. Here's another picture. So the book is going to be tons of pictures, and it's going to be, how we handle everything there, from building the cabin to water to composting toilets and all of these different things. And I'm still weird on the title. I like the Apocalypse Cabin though, but I thought, like a marketing person that's in publishing told me it should be something like build a cabin, change your life, something catchier. Building a apocalypse cabin can change your life though, because here's the deal. I used to have so much personal anxiety about what would happen in the world. And now I know. I know with the entire certainty of my soul that no matter what happens in the world, myself and my family will be okay. And that's a tremendously empowering feeling that I don't have to be afraid about the world going to shit anymore. Let it go to shit. You almost get to the point looking around this beautiful, big, beautiful place and all this protein walking around and you fishing and hiking and this beautiful forests. You almost hope that shit goes crazy so that you can just, you know, go back to the woods and be good.
To a more slower paced, I guess, way of life, I guess.
That's one funny thing about the cabin that I've learned is that everything happens slower there. But you learn to be okay with it. Like I have this big beautiful house in the suburbs and all the modern luxuries you could want, and my wife's big on kitchen gadgets, so we have everything. Like we have hot dog spinners like 7-Eleven, we have every electric appliance, everything you could possibly want, At the cabin, everything is a little slower and it takes a little bit more work. So in other words, here, if I got to get a shower, I just go and get a shower. There, I got to know I'm going to need a shower, and I got to find 10 gallons of water and jam it in this pot and heat up the water and then get it into the shower thing, and everything takes a little longer. But it's all self-reliance and it just feels great. It's slow, you know. Dinner might take 2 hours on the wood cook stove, so I'm going to go put up some shelves while I wait for dinner to stew.
Pizza.
Pizza. Oh, the pizza. Dan Hogan, you're coming up this summer. You're coming
I'm
up.
coming.
You're coming
Hey,
up.
hey. So one last thing, because we're getting real close to the 2 hour mark. This is actually something I've been real curious about, and I just have never really gotten the time to really get in depth talking to you about it. Is can you talk in the short time that we have left? What is like this Altos operating system that you've been working on? Like, can you kind of give me or give even the people that are like listening that maybe don't know exactly what's going on with that? Like how did you come up with that, and like where are you at in terms of the stages, I guess, of
Yeah,
development for
yeah,
that?
I can actually, and I should do more of that. And I appreciate that you're always trying to help me to remind me that there's shit that I gotta sell. Right? Like, Dan's always like, why don't you tell us about your new book, Steve? He's a great guest. He's
I got a
giving me
marketing
plugs.
degree.
So, here, the deal with, okay, so most people have been very, very supportive of this Altos project, and it stands for Alternative Operating System. And you can say it any way you want, Altos, Altos, whatever. But basically, the problem is that there's two major choices that we have for computer operating systems. We either go Mac or we could go PC. And they're both run by multinational corporations that are evil. And I'm just going to say that both these companies are not good ethical companies, and so I wanted an alternative, and that alternative really for me has been Linux. Growing up, I was an early adopter of Linux. The problem with Linux is that you really I've heard somebody say that Linux is only free if your time is worth nothing, because you can get Linux for free, but then in order to get a lot of good applications installed, in order to really get it to the point where you don't need Windows or Mac anymore, it takes me, having worked with it for 10 years, it would take me a month to build up a workstation, to have all the software that I need. So I realized that it takes so long, and I started cloning my own personal system and sharing it with people. And people responded so well to this because everything was done. You just get it on the desktop, and it's got. And a big thing that I said is it should run everything. So if you want to run your old Commodore 64 games from when you were a kid, you can. If you want to run PlayStation games, you can. If you want to run Nintendo games, Atari games, software from other computer systems like classic Mac OS or Amiga or DOS, or and it runs Windows programs, most Windows programs as well. So basically you're getting like 100 gigabytes of software. Well, really it's like 70 gigabytes of software, all installed, all ready to use. So when you go and you look, I'm going to share screen actually to my Twitter so I can share something, share a screenshot. Okay, let's see. Where's the latest? Some of the latest screenshots. That's it. Okay, so here's an example. If you want to create music, there's tons of audio applications, software synthesizers, sample designers, music trackers, MIDI programs, drum machines. All of this is built in, and it's all ready to go in these toolboxes. You get a toolbox, you open the toolbox, and there's drawers. And one drawer will be audio. You open the audio drawer and look at all of these music programs that you can use to create music. It's designed to be a digital content creator's greatest ally. And I truly believe that I've been able to do some things creatively that nobody else could, because they didn't have the tools and I had every tool. So part of the concept for this Altos is to pack in a tremendous amount of powerful applications. If you like graphics, look at all of this. Windows, you get Paint. You can't do anything with that. Here we have Dark Table. That's for, it's like Light Table. It's for digital photography and editing photos. Photo Sketcher, GIMP. We have Graphics too. There's tons of different MT Paint. There's tons and tons of different graphics programs, and that's the way this system works. Here's video editors. You want to edit video, there's all these different video editors, and all of this is free. It comes all out of the box. This thing's going to run. It's going to run on a thumb drive, Initially, when you get it, you just put it in your computer and you tell your computer to boot to the thumb drive first, and it'll boot. And all of this software is included with this 3D desktop and all this other stuff. Eventually, I'd like to do something like create a computer that runs this. And we're working on towards that goal. Oh, did I lose Dan? Oh yeah, somehow I lost you, Dan. Click on the link again to come back. Oop, I don't know what happened. Maybe he popped out when I shared the screen. Yeah, we lost our guest. That's what you get for making me talk about that, Dan. But I don't know if you can click on the link again from Twitter. One time his computer rebooted or something in the middle of the show. Windows is ubiquitous. Yeah, that's another problem. It's so unelegant. It's so uninspiring. I want to be inspired when I turn on my computer and try to do some kind of creative works, right? Let me send Dan the invite again, just so that I'm sure. One second, friends. I hope that won't screw anything up, sending him this next one. Yeah, it was a good show. It's fun to just talk to a friend. Andrew Whitley, where can I find the music you make? You can search Stephen Cambion, Dreams in the Dark. If you use that search term, you'll find a ton of stuff on YouTube. There's literally, there's like a 7-hour long plus concept album. And there's a bunch of singles and B-sides while that whole work was getting put together. Yeah, I guess Dan's computer crashed while we were talking about shitty operating systems. Mine's running good. Maybe he needs Altos. I'll have to get him. I'm going to send him a thumb drive. So, friends, any more comments, questions? If you have show suggestions for upcoming shows, I'm all ears. I'm gonna try to be back and come here and water this garden more than I have been able to. It's been difficult finding the time for everything, and something unfortunately has to give after a while. You have to go. I gotta dial it back and maybe just do 2 shows this week, or even 1 show this week, just to catch up with everyone, because. Things are crazy right now, and the demands on my time are higher than they've ever been in my life, I think. And I'm trying to find a good balance, between how to juggle everything and do some sort of time management. And I'm a little ADD, in case anybody didn't already know that. So I have trouble sometimes focusing on something, like focusing enough to have the energy, the time, and the dedication, and the subject matter to do a show each day. It gets challenging, and I'm getting an education in that. And one of the things I will mention, though, is that I don't want to do a show where I just talk about nothing for 2 hours, or these, like filler shows. We want to try not to have filler shows. We want to try to have shows with some kind of good subject matter, good content, good guests. So part of me would rather just skip a night if we don't have something worthy of putting out there. Metaphysics, yeah, Six of Design. I would be down for that. Absolutely would be down for that. I'm still not seeing Dan Hogan in the I guess it's called like the green room. Like, he'll pop up before I add him to the stream. His computer must have crashed, and it might have been my fault. Could you guys see the screen when I was sharing it? Yeah, I don't know what happened. But he set up a nice pitch for Altos, so thank you. And you guys can go onto the Altos Facebook page. Just search for the alternative operating system on Facebook, and you will find our page there, and there's users, and if you have trouble getting it to work on your computer, people will help you to sort of try to get it working. Search Altos, the alternative operating system, on Facebook, and you'll find a group. And the links for the free download are there. And I guess I will, let me share that screen as well, because there's more stuff that I can, share about that. Oh, here we go. This is the Altos page, and this is, we put every announcement about how everything is developing. Like, here's an announcement. Altos now runs original Xbox and Xbox 360 games. I have a few more additions and fixes to do in the next week. Then I'm finally calling it Altos Alpha 2. 6 months of hard work went into this thing. And here we see Altos on your PC running Xbox games, which is awesome. It's nice that you can, that you can run Xbox and Xbox 360 games right on it. And there's some other, this is a recent screenshot. This is what the desktop looks like. It's got a typical start bar like Windows, but there is an app launcher bar at the top for the most commonly used applications. Just a great system, and I love it. And it's basically me just sharing my personal, what I've developed for myself. I'm just sharing that with the world now. And this alpha is free, but soon it'll be sold on. I can't lie to you. The alpha is not great, really easy to set up, because you got to download like a 32 gig file right now, and then some other files. It's pretty straightforward getting it working though, but it's a lot easier. A lot of people have expressed to me that they just want to buy it from me on a thumb drive, and that will support the project, and then they can just put it in their computer and it'll start. They don't have to copy files. They don't have to get it working. So friends, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. Oh yeah, and more links on Truthseekers About tab. Thank you for sharing that. Genocide, sometimes the shows about nothing are best. Genocide, I'll do one show about nothing this week, just for you. Oh, and thanks. Good show, Stephen. Thanks, Truth Seekers and Fun Lovers. See ya. Yeah, I guess Dan Hogan's not coming back. His computer must have really fucking crashed. I don't know what happened. So I guess we'll just thank him for his appearance. Maybe the Men in Black got to his ISP and chopped him off. I don't know what happened. Oh, there he is. He's in the live chat. All right. Well, listen. If you're okay with it, Dan, that's fine. We'll just call. We're gonna call it a night here anyway, so you don't have to worry about popping back on here. And I will send you. You're gonna be one of the first people that I'm gonna splurge, because those thumb drives. It's a 128 gig thumb drive, and it's not super cheap. But I'm gonna get some for my friends that are so desperately in need, and you're on the list. So I appreciate that. Yeah, Lee Veltman says have a good night. KB says have a good night. Nice to see you all. I missed you guys. I'm glad to see so many. I think we got up to 29 in the live chat tonight, which is good, because we've been gone for so long, like 6 or 7 days really, I think. So it's great to see so many people back. I got to do a better job of promoting the show. We're still doing our best, but please do like, comment, subscribe, share this. Channel address. If you know some friends that might like the show, please send it to them. Post these videos on your social media, on your Facebook, on your Instagram, on your Twitter, and that helps us spread the show. Otherwise, you could just send me some money. That would be great. Genocide, I'll hold you to that, Stephen. Great show. Genocide, I'm titling it Genocide Show About Nothing. This way, if it's fucking terrible, it's not my fault. Genocide made me do this. It's his fault that this is terrible. I'm really not sure how to. Oh, there he goes. He's back, so we could just have him pop back on here.
I'm on the cell phone now because I need that Altos operating system like ASAP because this thing is garbage.
You're not the only one, brother. And I've been running into streams from it and been surprised that there's not something missing, if that makes sense. Like I was kind of worried, like, Jesus, is this going to work? But the software that we use to run the show is web based, so as long as the browsers are up to date, it works.
So I do have a question since I missed like your whole pitch because I was trying to get my shit back up again.
Yeah.
Like so somebody who's not like I'm sort of familiar with Linux because I had friends growing up who were like into computers and that was always sort of like their like that was like what they used. They were big Linux guys. But I mean for somebody who's never used Linux before, is it like a big I guess information gap there from somebody who's just used to Apple
No.
or used to like
No.
Windows to use a Linux
No, not
system?
not. Listen, unless you're going to learn the terminal and all these complicated, and I would be the first to admit that if you get into the terminal, which is like the command prompt, you can do anything in Linux, but it gets very archaic and crazy. It's like a whole nother language from DOS or whatever you may have grown up with or been used to. It's not that entirely complicated, but it is complicated. But mostly, you never have to use that with my system. Everything is point and click. It's very simple and it's easy to understand. Like you open the toolbox and then there's these drawers: audio tools, video tools, emulation tools, word processing tools, and then you open that drawer. Like if you were to open the graphics toolbox drawer, you get a whole bunch of applications for working on graphics. If you open the video drawer, it's been designed so that the average, I want my grandmother to be able to use it, or my mother-in-law, she's 80, to be able to use it to surf the web, play her online games, write letters, email, do whatever she needs to do. But for those users that want to go deeper, it just includes so much creative software that you could do so much with it.
Yeah.
And soon I'm going to have it on thumb drives. I'm going to put you on the list to get one, and then maybe you could come back and give it a review after you give it a test spin.
Yeah, for sure. Because like I said, anything's got to be better than what I'm using right now. So bring it on.
That's what I thought. You know what's so funny is that a few of my friends, even my nerd friends, my geek friends, were like, Steve, like, you can't just make your own operating system. And I was like, first of all, I'm not making my own. I'm taking what's out there and I'm building on top of it. And secondly, I'm pretty sure that somebody told Steve Jobs and Bill Gates the same shit, but they were like, had a vision and they had an idea. And I'm just going to go forward with it, put it out into the universe. Whatever happens, happens. We'll see. But it looks promising. People love it so far.
So I know that you got the operating system and you were sort of working on the computer too at the same time. Is the computer sort of on the back burner while you're working on
Yeah,
the
it's on the
operating
bench.
system? Or
It's on the bench, and we're doing a lot of tests. And I'm bringing in a specialist friend and a few. Basically, I'm calling in every nerd, favor, geek. I'm like, you got to come and look at this. Help me get over a hurdle or an obstacle. And some of my old geek friends have been very supportive. Some of them think I'm crazy, and they're like, this isn't going to work, and here's why. And I go, okay. And then 2 days later, I prove them wrong, and it starts working the way. So it's a back and forth, but it's on the bench and it's in the early stages. It's maybe half done to the point where we can manufacture and produce it.
good
And
stuff.
we're gonna have to call it a show, folks. We're up on the hard limit here. So I want to thank my guest tonight, Dan Hogan. I want to remind everybody the best way to support me is like, comment, subscribe, share this video on your social media. Otherwise, send me your money, you leeches. We
Donate
need we
worms.
need money
Donate.
like anybody else. Yeah, and we'll give you the truth. Isn't it nice to have a channel and a show host that doesn't pull punches, that tells you what's really going on behind some of this shit? We need more of that, not less of it. But the fairy tale salesmen suck up all the money in the room, and there's not much left for people that are actually out there looking for the truth behind these subjects. And there should be. But that's my pitch. Send me money, leeches. Assholes. Come on. No, we're going to call it a night. So I thank you very much, Dan Hogan. We're going to have to do this again.
Oh yeah,
Until next time.
always a pleasure. Always.
And, okay, and until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you. Oh, it's not working. There we go.